Welcome back to the Who's Accountable podcast. This is episode 5. I am your host and creator of the podcast, Mahael Abdul Kawi, as well as the founder and representative of the Accountability Party for Human Rights. Thank you for joining me for this episode. For those that don't know, this is a platform where I and other members of the Accountability Party for Human Rights will discuss current events that happen in our society that are done by corrupt people. And on this platform, we, the members, pretty much we respond, not react to these events, and we highlight a way for the audience to see if these people held themselves accountable or followed any or faced any form of accountability, how these events or situations could have played out for the better. So now that we got that out of the way, for this episode, um, at first I didn't know what I wanted to talk about for this episode. Um, Today. Oh, by the way, happy 420, for all the cannabis lovers out there. Uh, I also love politics and shit like that. Um, but yeah, for this video, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to talk about. I was going back and forth on a couple topics, and something that kind of just been um like a recurring thought in my mind the last couple of days. I've been reading um, his book called "The People's History of America," and it's a really concise look at America's history through the people's perspective. It's by Howard Zinn. It came out, I believe, in the 80s. I think like late 80s. But um, it's a really great book. I'm still early on into the reading, but it's there are a lot of things that I was already aware of. Fortunately, through classes that I have taken, through things that I have uh, learned from reading online, talk to other people, school, whatever it may be. But this book, he has a way of kind of just getting straight to the people's perspective of these major moments. And currently, where I'm at into the reading, I just got to the Revolutionary War, and um, it's where this takes place, the early days of America, and just kind of getting this rehash. It's not very common unless you're in school where you hear the history of how this country started. I think it's so easy to get caught up in everything that has happened in the last 60 to 100 years. We really don't think further beyond that because it's only the last 100 years that are truly kind of affecting where we're at now in 2021. Um, so it's not very often that you are reminded of the origin story, if you will, of this country. And the whole time I'm reading about this, it's like from the time Columbus discovered this country up until the Revolutionary War, something am that I'm truly just now finding out through these readings is that this has always been a class war. And that comes me to the point of what I want to make this video about. I don't want to go too long into it. I know I started rambling on about the book and history and whatnot, but um, I just want to take a moment again to really remind people that this is a class war. that we are currently in. It's a spiritual war for sure, but on the surface material level, it's a class war. And I say that because I know it gets misconstrued and the tools of the class war become the focus um instead of the actual entity. So for example, racism. Racism is a tool of the class war, but it's not the exact war, and I know some people may hear that and they would say, "Oh no, it's solely about race. All the problems are based on race." That is true. Trust me, that is very much true. But again, it's a tool because when you look at when this country was founded, specifically during the 1600s, it's very interesting. The 1600s was what I have I have come to see as like the budding period of America. This is from 1492. Is that when Columbus came? I think so. Whatever. Up until the 1600s is when things were popping off in Latin America, the Caribbeans, slowly moving upwards to the United States and Canada. It was very much the seeds being planted. It wasn't until the 1600s that you really start to see the like the seeds starting to sprout, and that's when you start seeing capitalism and our current struggles actually appear and manifest. Because when you look at who was fighting, we look at catastrophes such as slavery, and we think that was like like the beginning of America's. And of course it was, but it was different levels to it. And what I'm trying to get at is that it wasn't just slavery, it was servitude. It wasn't like the hatred of this person's skin color came later on as a tool to divide. Beforehand, before racism and what its concrete concept was, there were servants who were white. There were servants and slaves who were Indian, Native American. And of course, there was the African slaves. And you find that in a series of rebellions and insurrections, riots, it was always done by white servants who at the time were on a very close level to how they were seen as African slaves. They were only servants because they were fresh off the boat, coming from Britain, I think Germany, and there's another country in Europe. But yeah, they were coming off the boat, and they were still servants from when they were living in Europe. But they were just seen as dirt. And it wasn't until these white servants who were seen as trash too. Like, I know that's hard to kind of think about because again, the only horrors we see, or the only horrors on that we're made to focus on, is the hatred towards blacks, and that right there is even designed. They want our modern people to only see this part of history where blacks were hated, because then it creates this false. It furthers the divide, because it was during the 1600s where you had whites, natives, and the Africans who were all poor, who were all seen as dirt, who hated the elites. Because even during the 1600s, when we were still the 13 colonies, we weren't even the United States yet. Capitalism and the corruption of the top percent was already happening. It was already existing in the 1600s. So we weren't only, slavery wasn't the only thing that was happening for close to 500 years now. The class war between this upper echelon, who were white Christians, who came over here and saw free jurisdiction because, again, although they had power because of the royalty overseas, it was still overseas. So you have freedom to do and treat the people how you want. So this caused rebellion. And again, you had a unification. You had romantic linkings. Sexual romance was happening. And after a couple famous rebellions that were white, native, and black, the upper echelon started to see this. They started to see, like, we think of like the FBI, in the COINTELPRO program, where our good boy Hoover, he's always sprouted, that this is a fight for our way of life. Like, what we're doing has a greater cause in a way. The upper echelon back in the 1600s saw it the same way. The same way that Hoover, like, the existence of a black person threatened his high ground cause from God. They saw the same thing. They saw that, oh wait, these servants are getting stronger with the help of the Africans and the natives. They're stronger in numbers. And again, it wasn't even because of their skin color yet. It was just simply because they were all poor and they threatened their structure of power and wealth. And it was ridiculous because even once they fully divided the white poors and the black poors, you see it today. I call it trailer park trash and versus the ghetto, in that you're both the same. You're both poor because of Uncle Sam, and yet poor whites still think that they're better because of the way we're taught through. Again, we're taught a certain way of history that makes it seem like every white still has an opportunity. Fam, when the white servants stopped being servants, they struggled to get land. Not all of them made it out. They ended up still having to do contract work for the same masters that they just fucking left. So what I'm trying to say is, it's with all this history lesson that that I'm saying right now, is that this class war has been going on since the 1600s. And it's there when we see the real divide. Imagine in a reality where we could time travel. And I know about the butterfly effect and why that's a dangerous thing, but let's just have fun and ponder. It's 420. Let's have a little high thought for a second, okay? If we could time travel, though, and just change that, imagine how united we would be now. Black Panther chairman Fred Hampton, his work, the Black Panther Party as a whole, and what they were speaking to the people was a truth, in that this is a class war. This is us against capitalism. And yes, we can be mad at racism, It's a fucked up concept that makes no goddamn sense. It's so primitive of an idea. So we have to take a step back though and see what's really causing this. It's the class divide. And we have to get to the root. Because this is deep. They've been separating us for 500 years now. Imagine the difference we could fucking have if people got out of their ass and saw, wait a minute, I'm struggling, you're struggling too. You're white, I'm black, it don't matter because we both fucking poor in this bitch. And it's not even fair. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. But yet, we're still out here on this blue and red tip. Left and right. Fuck that. Learn your history, please. I'm begging you all. Hold accountable to the history we are not knowing. You can Google this shit, man. Take 5 minutes out. How were white servants treated? What was going on with the natives? What was going on with the early African Americans in this country? We can be together. We need to make up for lost time. It's not even on some kumbaya shit. No, let's hold hands and burn this shit. Hold these motherfuckers accountable for separating humans because they want to keep their way of life. They're so afraid of our power, the people's power. They're scared of our human rights. They've been doing this shit for this long. And we keep feeding into it. Let's stop. It's okay to say, I'm feeding the problem. It's okay to say that. Hold yourself fucking accountable, man. And let's do something about it. Inshallah.